The three brave amigos are we.
Welcome back to The Price of Business. You know that music. It is time for the 3 AM Egos, and we've got them all lined up. But before we have them on, I do want to mention today's program has been brought to you in part by the folks at the Apollo Business Group and also at our friends at Cornerstone Business Academy. I want to thank both of them for their support and their continued contribution to this program. I want to go straight to the topics at hand, and we've got, as always, several of them, and want to talk a little bit to our friend Dan Shedd, intern extraordinaire, and Sigmund Kramer. And gentlemen,
well, what am I?
I don't know. That's actually what I thought the topic was trying to figure out what Sigmund Kramer was.
Yeah.
Wah,
good luck with
wah,
that.
Wah, wah. Yep. So we're going to talk a little bit about a story that got a huge amount of press. It's really not that funny, but it certainly is interesting, and the jury's out whether or not we are going to leave Dan Shedd out to dry like NBC recently left Brian Williams out to dry. And so, by the way, I wrote an article about that sick codependent relationship that, frankly, I think should be the topic. Because it is kind of funny, but we let Dan Shedd choose these things. But go ahead, Dan Shedd. What do you got for us today?
Well, I have the story of the Detroit, Michigan worker who used to walk 21 miles to and from his work in Detroit, Michigan, and he has finally got a car, and thanks to donations from GoFundMe, gathering more than $230,000.
Wow.
That is impressive. You know what's the most impressive thing about that entire story, though?
What's that?
Is that I don't think he ever got mugged that entire decade of walking back and forth. I don't think once did he ever get mugged.
I'm pretty sure he didn't have anything to mug.
Well, they don't really care. And you know, I mean, this is a town with wild dogs running around, and whole neighborhoods that are completely pitch black. And my understanding, you used to walk home at night, in the middle of the night.
Well, you kind of have to because, I mean, living 21 miles away from the office.
Yeah, didn't he walk 4 hours altogether?
Yeah, he would.
There's a little bit of bus action involved. Not a lot, but there's a little bit of bus action.
Yeah, there was a bus that he would take. That took him part of the way, but then he would have to walk like 7 more miles to the factory. And actually, I misspoke on the amount. As of now, the fundraiser has raised $351,000.
And now he's no longer wants a car, but he wants a limousine with a chauffeur. And
why couldn't he just get a house closer to where he works?
Yeah, these are the questions that I ask that in our bizarre culture could make you sound like a racist. So the gentleman is black, and so it's like, why did he not, figure out how to put 10% of whatever his paycheck aside was and cut 10% out in order to save up for another car? Why didn't he get on Craigslist and find a house closer to where it was?
Yeah, if he wants to keep walking.
But you see, to ask those kind of things makes us, kind of, mean and not very helpful for some reason.
Yeah, I got in trouble for talking to people who live in New York City. They keep posting on Facebook these stories about people who are getting evicted because they can't afford their rent. Yeah. Even the guy who had that, my rent's too damn high. He's getting evicted. But the point is,
we covered that story probably more than we should have here on The Price of Business.
Well, there were people who, I don't know if you've ever seen Human Beings of New York or something like that. It's a Facebook site. And
Human Beings?
Yeah, Humans of New York or something like that. And it's supposed to be these humanity stories, human interest stories from New York and how life is so tough in New York and all this, and in the city. And I'm thinking to myself, no, I'm not just thinking to myself, I actually posted. I say, why don't you move somewhere where the rent isn't $3,000 a month for a studio?
Yeah.
And where, we can't afford to have a car. I bet you if you didn't spend $3,000 a month on rent, you could afford to have a car.
You could probably have a couple.
But we couldn't afford the parking. You know what? If you don't live in the city, you don't pay $400 to $500 a month for parking. So it's just they don't want, and then they say, well, people can't afford. People aren't as. I said I did it. I saved up money and I moved. I didn't know one single person in L.A. and I moved out there. Why can't they? Why can't they find somewhere else to be? And man, there's 1,000 excuses. 1,000 excuses. And instead, what they want to do is they want to make it so that there's rent control, that there are that people can't possibly raise the rent. You know, they want to make it like this whole socialistic society. So for me, even asking, well, why don't you move? I'm branded, someone who's just mean, who's not a realist. That's the funniest one. I'm not a realist. That I have no clue. I'm clueless as to their plight. No, I'm not. I got out of it.
Yeah.
I had that plight too. So this guy, he's walking to work 21 miles a day.
21 miles a day.
So why don't you find somewhere else to live where you don't have to walk that far? I mean, to me, that's common sense. I think it's great that people stood up and that they're helping the guy out. But at the same time,
I think they probably should have stopped at around $5,000 though. What is he going to do with all this money except for, like a lottery winner, potentially see it disappear in 4 or 5 years?
Yeah.
Did you know the vast majority of lottery winners go through all of it in less than 5 years?
Oh, sure.
And I think a majority actually go bankrupt at some point.
If he wasn't mugged before,
he's going to get mugged now.
He's on the radar.
Yeah. That 300,000 you were boasting about is going to be about 140 just after taxes alone.
Well, I don't know how that stuff works.
Oh, yeah.
With the GoFundMe stuff. Is that it's taxable income?
Yeah. Absolutely. Everyone would have their employers pay through GoFundMe if it wasn't taxable. Everything's taxable.
Well, anyway, Dan.
So how's that for raining on your little parade there, Dan Shedd? Aren't we good guys?
Yeah. Y'all are really nice.
Warm and fuzzies.
I did say I thought it was nice that they raised
I thought it was nice, too.
It just brings up questions, and I can't help it. But that is a good story. That is definitely a better story than the one that I had.
What was yours? You didn't have one.
No, I did. About the girl that, the 13-year-old girl in Oregon who had a 61-year-old man taking upskirt video of her and at a Target, and he got off scot-free. And basically, you can't do anything about it because it's not really breaking the law.
At least his story, at least Dan's story was uplifting. That's just gross.
Well, but here's the funny part. The town's name, Beaverton, Oregon.
I've been to Beaverton, Oregon. Fine town, but I'll never think of it the same way now that you said that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Actually, that probably warrants a toilet flush.
Yeah, that was a potty humor kind of.
That was potty humor. Yeah, there you go. So, let's stick back with Dan's story. Dan, what did you think about the story? You found it. You brought it to us.
I thought it was great. I mean, it shows that there are still good people in this world. I mean, this guy who walked 21 miles to work, perfect attendance. I think he deserves it because.
Well, he is a good guy for sure, man. I mean, Detroit. Yeah. Walking 21 miles, you can imagine what the winters must be like.
I grew up in Detroit. I can tell you exactly what they were like. So I used to chip ice off my nose when I got home.
Yeah.
I used to literally walk backwards from school because I would I would lose body parts if I tried to face it directly. So I know exactly what it was like. That guy is a true profile.
Does he have kids at home?
The article does not say.
He's 56 years old, so mathematically I doubt it.
But you talk about, just an outstanding, guy. He has a 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. shift, and then he gets back to the local mall, catches the last bus to Detroit, and then he walks to his house about 5 miles in pitch dark.
You know what's going to happen? Amazing. You know what's going to happen? He's going to get the car. I mean, he can afford a Rolls Royce at this point, but he's going to get a car, and then he's going to get fat, and he's going to have a heart attack.
Yeah, he'll be dead within 2 years now, thanks to Sigmund's predictions here. I hope you're wrong. You know what would be awesome is if he decided to go ahead and become an entrepreneur. You know, the guy's been doing this job for a long time. He did it for years before the 10 years ago where his car broke down 10 years ago. He's been doing it for years, and he's only making less than $11 an hour.
He should be an Uber driver.
Yeah, that's right.
Always
in
surge,
Detroit.
always surge
there,
pricing. Yeah, always surge pricing. He should be an Uber driver now. See?
In Detroit.
There you go.
Oh, man.
All right, we're done.
All right, thanks so much. Actually, it was a good story. I liked it.
Thanks, Dan.
It made me feel warm and fuzzy. In spite of Sigmund's best efforts, I found it warm and fuzzy. All right. You want to remind folks, interesting article, I think. I wrote it, of course. It's over in the media section of Huffington Post. I am biased. But it's an interesting psychological take on Brian Williams and NBC's sick relationship. Check it out. And stay tuned for more right here on The Price of Business.